What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So as y'all know before, I did end up doing the overall progression to max level 60 here in Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. Now, I actually did want to do this again though for the after level 60 progression and give my honest thoughts on how this actually is so far. The reason why I did actually want to make this video is because I've been seeing a ton of stuff going around about it. So I was like, you know what, let me give my honest thoughts on this and really go over the design of this just a tad more so people might actually be like, okay, you know what, maybe it's not all that terrible. So first things first, guys, as y'all know, once you do hit level 60, which I'll head over to the reputation thing, it doesn't obviously show you what you get, but you're actually going to get the Apollo once again. You also have all the races here at 55, and you're luckily going to have a hypercar so you can do some of the events, and you're also going to get a ton of stuff unlocked as well. The reason why I actually found this pretty insane though is going to come down to one thing. That is going to be the task list. Now I do know people are going to be like, man, look, there's just races you can do. They're all basically the same thing. I really don't see a point of doing them. Like, don't get me wrong, I hear you. That does make sense. I mean, that is going to be a valid argument. At the same time, though, don't all the racing games technically have a similar design, though? I mean, most of the time you have like a time trial type of event, an actual sprint race. Most of the actual racing games tend to have a very similar design to them. Now, one of the reasons why I really like the way Test Drive did it, though, is the way they actually added a task design into it. Now, a lot of players are going to be like, Blocked, what are you talking about, dude? All this is basically going to be is a bunch of tasks in the game that basically want you to do 100 races with a certain vehicle. What is the point? Well, here's the thing, guys. I do understand one thing about a racing game, though. Like, normally the end game part of it, you're probably going to try to max a vehicle out, do some races in it. And then once you're actually maxed out, all the races are done, what is going to be the next thing you are most likely going to do? Well, that is probably going to be a PvP part of it because that's mainly like the end game part of a racing game, right? Most players are going to want to get maxed out cars and go, oh, you know what? Let me go jump into some PvP stuff like that, which does make sense. I mean, that's probably going to be a big part of a racing game. I would say ranked is actually going to work a lot better once they actually get the entire update out on it, which I am hoping for that so I can do more stuff with it. But here's the thing though, I did want to take a deeper dive into this entire thing. We all do know right now, guys, a lot of players might look at some of the tasks and go, okay, wait, I want to get the Ford GT, the McLaren, or like the Caterham or the Audi R8, maybe something like a Jaguar, maybe like a BMW. In most racing games, when you actually buy some of these cars, is there going to be challenges for them? Now, Need for Speed Unbound does have some stuff like that, where you can get like underglows or like those weird like sticker things or like the effects and stuff like that. But you'll probably look at a lot of racing games and realize once you buy many of the vehicles, there is not any challenges tied to the cars, which honestly, guys, I would love that so much in all of these games. Like, have every car tied to like 1,000 miles to where you get like unlocks for it. Have like different challenges, like for example, races. That's why I really liked it. A lot of players have a favorite car that they might want to use, right? I mean, that's probably how a lot of racing games are. Now the game's giving you a chance to go, okay, so if you do 100 races and you actually get that done, you'll get $1 million for it. On top of that, you're also going to get the money from the 100 races. If you actually take your time, you can get over 20,000 per race, which is going to be even more money and stuff on top of that. And you also get better with that car. You can tune it. Like, it gives you a reason to do them. I actually really like this design. I feel like a lot of players, when looking at it, are probably like, man, I don't want to do 100 races in one of these cars. But I have to admit, guys, isn't that kind of dope they even added it? I really wanted something like this in Motorfest so dang bad, man. Like, that game has over 600 cars, and imagine this for a second. Imagine every single car having like a 500-mile challenge, a 1,000-mile challenge where you get parts, money, XP, and stuff. Maybe they can tie some races to those vehicles. Like, how can that not be dope? I feel like everybody would be like, bro, that is going to be such a fun endgame aspect. I've actually made a video on that legit probably 5+ months ago. That's another reason why when I saw the entire like task design, I was like, this is so cool, man. I like the way they did it. For example, let's say you finish the Ford GT for the events, then you actually jump into like the BMW i8, you go do 100 races in that. You're also going to have different objectives and stuff to like jump into that race, beat it in a certain amount of time, make a certain amount of money in that region. Like, that would be so cool to see in other games, man. Like, we all do know right now every single racing game has their strengths and their weaknesses. Like, that can be a real thing. And we also could probably say it's fairly valid looking at all the current racing games on the market. but why not take great designs from each of them and actually take a look at it? Like we all do know right now, guys, having competition in the racing game genre, or any game genre for that matter, is so important. Because you can have something like Motorfest where some of the stuff in that game is dope. Then you're going to bring out Test Drive, like both games are going to have flaws and stuff, we know that. But also, both games bring a lot of dope things to the entire table. And that is also why I feel like the entire quote unquote competition thing per each game is going to be so dang important, because they can actually look at each other and go, okay, wait a minute. People like this aspect in the game, but they're not liking this too much. Maybe if we did something like that, we can add more of this into the game. People seem to like it in this one. Like, competition's so important. This is also going to go, guys, a quick example. Imagine in Motorfest for a second, if we actually had races that give you a money bonus when you beat it in a certain amount of time, or maybe you have to beat that said race or a couple of different races in like the Toyota Tacoma or something like a Lamborghini, you'll get like an extra money bonus. How would that not be a great feature? And that was something I really liked about Test Drive. Like, you drive that car a bit, you're then going to make more money by driving your favorite car if you want to. Like, some players might be like, yo, 100 races in a Bugatti, man, done, that's easy. 100 races in a Maserati MC20, done, bro, that's going to be easy to do. I'd love this car. And a lot of players love certain vehicles enough to where they would love to have challenges like this. Even like I said before, having like mileage tied to each car, which they could do in this game as well. I would love to see something like that in Motorfest or even Need for Speed as well. That would be so cool to be able to actually drive your favorite car. You'll get money and XP, or even parts unlocked having certain amount of mileage on it, having races tied to it. That way every car has like a progression tree to it. That way it's going to give you even so much more stuff to do after you actually max level. That was one thing, guys, I have to admit. Like, I do understand people are saying there's nothing to do in this game. I have to say, like, there was a bunch of tasks and different objectives to go after that I feel like a lot of people would have wanted in other racing games. Like, didn't you actually want to have a bunch of things you can make money from? Bro, that's $37 million you can make if you actually did it. That is not including the money you actually get from the events, so you can make well beyond that and buy a bunch of different cars, right? On top of that, you can then jump into the races, beat some of them in a certain amount of time. You then get a money bonus. You also get a money bonus doing like the objectives in a certain region. Like, that's so cool, bro. I feel like that would work in so many racing games. And this is actually something I've been thinking about for days now after hitting level 60. Like, these are the type of challenges players would actually want in an endgame type of scenario, right? Wouldn't that make a lot of sense to have something like 100 races in that said car? Don't get me wrong, they could probably have like another 50 plus different tasks you can do for different things, but again, that could come in different updates. And the funny part is, though, in most games when I was thinking about it, once you actually max level, there really isn't going to be a ton of stuff in the end game aspect. Most games are probably going to have PvP and stuff like that, which sometimes they don't have enough PvP in there. We all do know Unbound is probably going to have one of the best multiplayer designs. I had to say it. Probably going to be fairly true, man. Like, it's hard not to say it. It really is that good. There's playlist designs in there. There's free roam events. There's a lot of stuff going on in Unbound. Like, you have to give credit where it is due. We also do know Motorfest can have a lot more stuff when it does come to like the end game aspect. And this was something I was thinking about. It's not me getting mad at the game, but looking at all like the tasks and stuff like that here in Test Drive, why not have some of that in that game to give players a bigger reason to play it, instead of only having one small PvP game mode in the entire endgame part of it? Why not have over 700 cars with different challenges with each one of them? Like, man, I would be using every single car going through all those races. That would be so much fun. Imagine having like a mileage challenge, different race challenges in each one. You get like different parts, you get money, XP. Like, bro, I'm telling you right now, that would be so incredible for the end game aspect in Motorfest. And honestly, basically every racing game. That would give a player so many reasons to actually use different cars and play the game more, instead of getting bored or like jumping on a PvP. Maybe they don't like PvP. Maybe they want to drive their favorite car, but imagine giving them challenges in some of those cars that everybody does obviously own them. You can get even more stuff unlocked over time, which will get you more things to actually go after in the future when new content is actually added. Like, man, I just feel like it's so dang factual. And that was actually something I was a tad confused on when playing Solar Crown. Not even being past level 60, but on the journey to level 60. It gives you all kinds of objectives to go after, make extra money, XP, and stuff like that. And then once you actually max level, it is then going to give you an additional 37 different challenges to go after with different vehicles, giving you something to do and also a reason to drive them in different events. Like, I would love to see this in every racing game. That's why when I saw this, guys, I was so dang confused on why players were like, man, it's so boring. None of us want to do these amount of races. But isn't that like a cool thing to do in a racing game, to have challenges like this tied to certain cars? Wouldn't you like to see this in other games as well? Like, that would make so much sense. Do let me know what you guys think about this entire thing in the comments below. I have to admit, the overall after level 60 progression here in Solar Crown is honestly fairly decent. On top of that, we're also hopefully going to have the ranked coming out when the game does get the update, which I would say right there alone would be so dang awesome to play. After you actually hit level 20, you can then play ranked, and I feel like the entire ranked game mode, if done right, would be so dang dope. I'm actually going to make a video though talking about Need for Speed Unbound's entire multiplayer system, because I feel like the way that is designed would work in basically every racing game and probably make them a lot more fun, not only for the multiplayer part, but also from a progression standpoint.